Hello YouTube, this is Captain Nav. I hope you're all doing well. Today in this video we're going to talk about Ian approaches. We had a small discussion on the channel a few weeks ago about Ian approaches, and I thought I'll make a quick video on it. I've never flown a Ian approach in real. The aircraft needs to be equipped for it, so the aircraft I used to fly was not equipped, so it's a little bit of a discovery for me as well. I was not aware of that feature. IAN stands for Integrated Approach Navigation, and basically it's an approach option which is designed to kind of simulate ILS like approaches, even if we fly non-ILS approaches. So to start with, in this video today we'll fly the ILS 22 or the IAN approach runway 22 in Stansted. So we set up the approach in the FMC as usual. And the one thing we'll change is that we won't tune the ILS, so that we are sure that we're not actually using the ILS signals for the approach. And yeah, set up the rest of the approach as we usually would, and fly the approach like that. We'll see later on during the approach here in Stansted the different modes for the approach. But basically we still use the approach mode in the MCP, and they will give us some different flight mode annunciator modes there to fly the approach. So I'm not really sure how the aircraft calculates the approach segment. I guess it's a mix of GPS and also the barometric input, altimeter input as well, through the computer systems. But I guess it's fairly similar to LNAV, VNAV, but what we use in this case is the approach mode, which is kind of similar to obviously an ILS approach. So we're now descending 4,000 feet. Once again, you can see that the ILS frequency is not tuned, set up random frequencies, and we are gonna start reducing the speed towards the flap up speed. And at this stage it's a normal approach, nothing different from usual, and we'll take flap 1, reduce the speed accordingly. And yeah, as I said, at this stage it's all fairly similar to another approach, another ILS approach. If you've flown into Stansted before, you'll be fairly familiar with the ILS approach runway 22. So we are on some sort of downwind leg now, starting to reduce the speed, and we'll turn soon base leg for the IAN approach runway 22. So we'll descend 2,500 feet and self radar vectors, heading of 135, some sort of base leg, and as I said, descending towards 2,500 feet. So the descent looks good. We are more or less on profile, maybe a little bit low. The rate of descent is quite good, so there's no issue there, which is all nice. And basically once we take the turn to intercept the final approach track, we'll see these new modes for the IAN approach, which as I said, I've never flown before, and it was a little bit of a discovery for me trying to shoot this video. So we'll arm the approach mode, and as you can see, we've got FAC, final approach course, and GP, glide path modes, which are armed. And this is obviously different from the usual Vorlock and glide slope mode you have on an ILS approach, or obviously LNAV and VNAV path for non-precision approach. So you can see as well on the PFD we've got glide path deviation indicator, and also some sort of final approach course deviation indication. So it's fairly similar to the presentation you have for an ILS approach, but as I said, it's not an ILS approach. It's some sort of computer approach you're flying there. So we now intercepted the final approach course, and we've got final approach course FAC enunciated, and just now intercepting the glide path, and glide path is enunciated as well in the FME. So we go for the gear, flaps 15, reducing the speed accordingly, and since we have now intercepted the glide path, we'll be able to reset the missed approach altitude as well at some point. We can do it now actually. 3,000 feet missed approach altitude is set, and yeah, basically now we just follow the flight director, configure for landing, flap 30. We'll assume the landing checklist is done, and basically, yeah, just fly the approach. We've got the indications similar to an ILS approach, so we just follow the approach and fly following the flight directors. So as I said, it's exactly the same presentation as an ILS approach, but it's not an ILS approach because you're not using the ILS signal to fly the approach. What you use is actually something which is worked out by the computer system on board the aircraft. I understand. As I said, I'd never come across that term before. The aircraft, the 737 I used to fly, didn't have that option enabled, so it's a little bit of a new thing for me, but it's quite interesting. I mean, it's if you can fly an ILS, why not flying an ILS, and why would you fly a EN approach? But it's just as a replacement, I guess. So we are positioning our short final for landing in Stansted, runway 22. A little bit of a crosswind coming from the right. The glide path shows a little bit high. Maybe we have 3 whites, only 1 red, but we anticipate touchdown in the touchdown zone, so shouldn't be too much of an issue.
30, 20, 10.
And flare and touchdown. So we bring the reversers, auto brakes on, and nicely decelerating. So that was the EN approach, runway 22 in Stansted, obviously based on the ILS approach, and we'll now move on to another approach in Alicante this time. So here we are now in Alicante, downwind for the VOR Zulu runway 28. We'll have a quick look at the FMC. You can see we've got what's coded as the VDM Zulu runway 28, which is the VOR Zulu approach. And looking at the legs page, everything makes sense there. Got the courses 260. It's a 20 degree offset approach. Now we've got the VOR tuned as well for the approach. So we can start our descent now towards 3,000 feet and variable change, and start the turn for the base leg. So once we intercept the base leg, basically because the approach is 20 degrees offset, we're not going to be able to use EN on this one, because we'll you may have noticed, we'll have a look at it again later on the legs page, the last segment before the runway point doesn't match the final approach course 260. The last segment is actually on 280, so it's not working. I think it's because of the way the approach is coded in the FMC. So you'll see once we get close to the magenta line, which depicts the 260 final approach course, EN is not going to intercept that course. It's going to keep going on the heading. We've got flaps 1 now, reducing the speed, and we are fairly close now to the final approach course. So as I said, you'll see that it's not gonna work. So we are starting the turn to intercept the VOR Zulu runway 28, heading of 230. 30 degree intercept is usually quite good. And once the aircraft is pointing in the right direction, we can arm the approach mode, and we can see on the PFD in the FMA up there that final approach course and the glide path are armed, showing in white here. So we still have about 4 miles until we theoretically intercept the final approach course. But as I said, we're actually gonna fly through it because as you can see on the PFD, the final approach course the computer is working on is showing 280, and we are supposed to fly on 260. So it's not going to work. The computer is not going to intercept 260. It's going to keep on the heading until it actually intercept 280 from runway 28. So we're gonna level off at 3,000 feet. We still have about 2 miles to the 260 track. But as I said, we're gonna fly through the magenta line and continue. As you can see, the last segment between MD 28 Zulu and runway 28 shows 280. So I guess that's what the computer is basing its calculations on. It doesn't take into account the 260 all the way to MD 28 Zulu. So you can see when the localizer deviation on the PFD is still empty, nothing's moving, and we're now crossing the magenta line and nothing's happening. So as I said, the computer is calculating a final approach course of 280, which kind of is where the white dotted line representing the extended center line is on the navigation display there. So that's obviously not working. I'll show you now the VOR X-ray, which is more or less straight ahead, and this time it's gonna work. So we are still now in Alicante, runway 28, VOR X-ray this time, which is more or less straight in VOR approach. There's no offset, unlike the VOR Zulu. And you'll see this time that we can fly the VOR approach using Ian, and basically with the ILS presentation on the PFD, and also using the approach mode on the MCP instead of flying the VOR approach using LNAV and VNAV the way we would normally fly it on the 737. So we just about turning now on the intercept course for the VOR X-ray runway 28, and we're now pointing in the right direction. So we're gonna be able to arm the approach. So engage the approach mode, and you can see once again FAC and GP armed, so final approach course and the glide path armed. And we can see the details of the approach there, the VDM 28 and the course 280 degrees as well. So yeah, basically what we have on the PFD there is the information we have in the FMC for the approach. So same principle, we've got the localizer deviation indication there, a little bit like the ILS, but once again it's not an ILS. It's a VOR, and we're not actually flying the VOR signal, but we're flying what the aircraft is computing for us. So the final approach course is now intercepted, and you can see on the PFD in the FMA it's engaged, FAC is in green, and at the moment we are in altitude hold, and glide path is armed. So you can see the deviation of the glide path is actually still empty, and then the lozenge will become full magenta, and then come all the way down towards the level of the aircraft where we'll intercept the glide path. So it's just a matter of time now until we get to that stage. And yeah, at this stage there's nothing else we can do. So as you can see now, the lozenge there is full magenta. It's slowly coming down towards the central position there. As soon as it gets to the central position, then the glide path will be engaged, and we'll follow the glide path all the way down to the runway. So glide path is engaged now. I will go gear down, flaps 15, arm the speed brakes, and start reducing the speed. So yeah, once again we can see glide path engaged. We'll reset the missed approach altitude, same principles as the ILS. As soon as the glide path is engaged, then we can reset the missed approach altitude. And from now on, once again, we fly the approach as if it was an ILS approach, so basically following the flight director and the final approach course and glide path deviation indicator on the BFD. We'll go flap 30 and final approach speed 153. So yeah, basically it's the same as flying an ILS approach. For a VOR approach like this one, where the final approach track is more or less straight in and aligned with the runway, it's a fairly convenient way to fly the approach. At least you don't have to worry so much about, you know, LNAV and VNAV, and reset the missed approach on VNAV once you are 300 feet below the missed approach altitude, and all these good things. At least with Ian, you keep the one method to fly the approach. So it's interesting that way, but in itself it doesn't bring anything new, I guess, because you're still flying either an ILS approach with no ILS signal, or a VOR with no VOR as well. So it's yeah, it's more or less the same, I guess. So now flight director, the auto throttle is disengaged, and now we can fly the approach manually. So I hope you find this video interesting. It's not really a tutorial as per se, because there's nothing really extraordinary about it, but it's an interesting feature. I think it's quite good to have a look at this extra feature. As I said, it was not on the 737 I used to fly, so I never really had the opportunity to use this feature, but it's there in the simulation. So if you feel like using it and giving it a go, then feel free to do it. Just be advised that I don't think it's widely featured in the real 737s airlines around the world fly. So it's more like a gadget rather than anything else. For an ILS approach, you would use the ILS, the kind of standard ILS, and for any non-precision approach like VOR or NDB, you would fly LNAV, VNAV most of the time. So just be aware of that. So once again, thank you very much for watching the video. If you think it was somehow informative, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more similar content. And until next time, take care, and I will see you soon.